what would you say your superpower is? How do you get to such a entrepreneurial success at such a young age?
Yeah, I think it's curiosity. I think I just love digging into a problem and trying to figure out how to solve it. And there's been actual joy and excitement that has come out of trying to figure out how to survive cancer for a second time now in some of these moments where I'm digging into research studies with the help of an amazing expert team. And I'm in the room with other extremely knowledgeable people on the topic, and I'm able to ask good questions because I'm curious and I've read the research and I've read the background information before I show up. I've had doctors say to my wife after sessions, after I leave, I think Aaron knows more about this topic than I do. And they're saying it flippantly. But the point is I'm coming in as a very educated customer. And it's just because I'm super curious about this stuff. And when it matters to me, I'm curious about it. And when it's important to other people, I'm curious about it as well. I like trying to solve problems for other people. So I'm just an absolute tinkerer. I think I just love picking up the pieces and trying to figure out what the subcomponents of something are. And I've done that in the business world, and I've done that in my personal life. And it's honestly something that draws me to a lot of the outdoor adventures I have too. Getting into guiding in whitewater now and taking people on wilderness adventures. I'm up to 7 boats that I have now for taking people out on adventures. And I just love what will that boat be like in this experience? What will that be like? Which one's safer? Which one's more fun? Which one's faster? Mm-hmm. And I love just testing it out and finding out and making mistakes. That was the wrong boat for that one. In May, I pinned my 11-foot raft in Boulder Creek, just downstream from Ebbenfein Park, with my really good friend Charles on the boat and his 12-year-old daughter. Pinned it on a rock under the pedestrian bridge.
Pinning it meaning it's stuck.
Stuck on a rock, and as it was getting sucked under, we all jumped off the boat, and we're now standing in the middle of Boulder Creek when it's a torrent, right, in spring when the water's just coming down, and it's like class 3, class 4 whitewater, and the boat just gets sucked under, and then it just disappears. And it's just stuck, and it's bent around a rock. This is a massive, strong, inflatable boat. And I found the limit that day. I was curious if we could do it, and I got to make a mistake. And standing there on that rock in the middle of the creek, I thought I probably pushed a little too far this time.
Now that can be a very humbling creek. I mean, a lot of people have gotten quite hurt on that creek. Yeah. I've tubed down it a few times, and I've always worn a life vest and a helmet, and I've seen other people just get smashed.
I've gotten injured tubing a couple times on it, and the amount of speed you can hold when it's up really high in a raft is even faster. And it's great as long as you go around all the obstacles. But we just made a small mistake, me guiding in the back. I thought we could go right. Last minute, I said, we can't go right. We got to go left. We didn't make the left move. We hit the rock sideways. Within 3 seconds, the raft was gone. And it was pinned underwater in a way that if any of us had still been in the boat, we would have been with it. We quickly made a move, got on the rock, and we got out. And it was one of those moments that makes you think, it's fun to be curious, and it's fun to push the limits. And we got lucky another day on that day.
This podcast is brought to you by B Micro, a company I'm deeply passionate about because I founded it in 2018. It's USDA organic freeze-dried microgreens for everyday nutrition and detox. Sprinkle them on any meal or take them as a capsule to enjoy the many healthy benefits. Shop now at bmicro.farm. Use code STEVE15 to save. When did you get curious about leadership? When did you start practicing that? When did that show up first for you?
Oh, it started in Boy Scouts as a kid. I was an Eagle Scout. I was leading groups at the patrol level in Boy Scouts. Which were you in Scouts?
I made it to Life, which is one before Eagle.
Exactly.
And then the social pressure of I quit before that. But my brother is also an Eagle Scout.
And you did 90% of the work to get to Life, so you're familiar with it.
And I loved it.
Yeah, you loved it as well.
I loved it.
Yeah. Was this growing up in Chicago?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time in the woods. Loved making just my childhood was mostly riding bikes and making Swiss Family Robinson style making tree forts.
Yeah, I did a lot.
And Boy Scouts taught me how to make lean-tos and little forts.
Yeah, how to do all the lashings. And I loved that stuff. I could build stuff out of lashings.
I mean, if you're not a pyro, then are you really a Boy Scout?
Exactly. My friends were called Bic flickers because of Bic lighters. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, by their school teachers when they got in trouble. Yeah, that's where I first felt it, and I felt this enjoyment from leadership was in Boy Scouts as a probably 13, 14-year-old leading small groups and patrols. And then scouting gave me huge opportunities all the way up to going to 2 national jamborees, being the senior patrol leader of one of them. So I had maybe 40 kids and a whole bunch of adults kind of technically under me in terms of leading them through a 2-week destination camping thing where we built huge structures and participated in lots of events. And so that gave me a lot of confidence. That was all before going off to college and studying computer science, and before I really had a team member on any of my business teams. It was kind of me as a tinkerer and a hobbyist building websites and doing graphic design and some basic software stuff. And then I started to have teams on the business side, and I just felt super comfortable with it. I know exactly what's likely to go wrong with a team of 10 people. And I saw the same patterns on the business side that I saw with scouts out in the woods. Somebody isn't as prepared as they should have been. Let's figure out how to support them. Somebody has a disagreement with somebody else. Let's figure out how to solve the disagreement. And it had become muscle memory already through some experiences with scouting, so that when I started to run into that in the business world, it just felt like the same thing. The team members were just a little older and a little more serious in their conflicts, but that was about it. It was all the same stuff.
Yeah. How would you describe your leadership style?
Player coach, just part of the team. I have this huge draw. It's part of my personality to just want to be on the team. So as much as I like leading the team, I also love being part of the team. And so I'm trying to be a player on this team. And to the extent I need to be a coach, I'll be a coach. But the part I love the most is just being like on a high performing team, being in the room, being trusted by other people to be a supporter or part of the team that has to deliver something. And then, when things rise to the level where the coach or the leader needs to step in, I do that sort of work. Not begrudgingly, but just it's not my favorite part. Like the part where I got to corral everybody and get them back on the same sheet music, which I've done time and time again. But my favorite part is when we're all just side by side. Just it's kind of like rafting down the creek. Oftentimes when I run that raft, I run R2, which is 2 people in a raft, each with a paddle, and so you have to have unbelievably synchronized teamwork between the 2 paddlers, because the person on the left can pretty much only make the raft go to the right, and the person on the right can pretty much only make it go to the left, which means every turn you have to make has to be coordinated between 2 people. And that's when I feel most alive, when I'm just part of this team where I'm trusted by the person next to me. I'm trusting them to make decisions. And I've had plenty of runs down Boulder Creek where we've done it flawlessly. And those feel great too.
So who are you guiding? Who are you doing this with?
Yeah, mostly family and friends. I'm not doing anything commercially, but I'm in summer. We're up in Steamboat Springs, and I'm on the Colorado River, called the Upper Sea, which is just downstream from Winter Park, where everything kind of starts in Lake Granby, where the Colorado River starts. And then the Yampa River that runs through Steamboat has a lot of water in it in April, May, and June, and so I run that. There's usually an April day where I ski, go up for closing weekend. I ski in the morning, raft through town with a dry suit on with snow on the banks, go back up, ski the next day, come down, raft through town again. I did it this year. And then the Green River in kind of western Colorado and up into Wyoming and into Utah. And I'm taking people out on these beautiful canyons. Some of them require wilderness permits to get on, and starting to figure out how to get those permits and take friends out. And just loving it. Yeah, it's friends and family, and sometimes groups as big as 10, 12 people. And sometimes we're overnight on the river, so bringing everything we need to sleep, or we're going to a remote cabin on the river and then setting up camp and breaking it all down and putting it all back on the boats and leaving by water the next day. And they're just delightful ways to get out into under the stars, into really quiet places. And like most good adventures, the further you get out, the less people you see and the more wild it is. And I found in river canyons that happens really quickly. It's like the first mile out of hiking a parking lot in Rocky Mountain National Park, the number of people drops exponentially, but you're going to still see 10 people after that next mile. On the river, it often goes to 0 pretty quickly.
Okay.
And you're a mile down the river. You're 100 yards down the river from the put-in, and you might not see another person until you take out 7 hours later. And so it gets really cool access to some wild places.
And what type of feedback do you get from the people that you're guiding? Like, what are people feeling? What type of insights, what type of realizations might someone get from an experience like that?
I'll tell you, a lot of them come out of that. If it's their first time on a river, I hear from them about a month later, they bought a boat. They bought an inflatable kayak.
Wow.
Or they bought an inflatable paddleboard. And I think that's my favorite feedback to hear from anybody is it's like, wow, you've really dove into this and they're excited about it. There's something magical that happens on the longer trips, and the longer trips are a little more rare for me, but they're my favorite. So 3 to 4 to 5 days out on the river. And something really, really magical happens to me every time, and I'm finding it happens to people I bring with me as well, which is that day one, we put our phone in a dry bag, and we get it out a couple times to take pictures because it's all really fantastic. There's no cell service in any of these places for the most part. And so then day two, maybe there's like a cool picture on the beach. Someone takes their phone out once and they put it away and they put it back in the dry bag. And it's something about being in the wilderness and something about no cell service and something about the fact that you need to put it away in a dry bag to keep it safe. And that kind of makes it harder and harder. And the dopamine loop kind of continues to dissolve each day we get away from our always connected lives. And then people start to have these really wild experiences where they're just present. And I feel this myself. By day three, there's some point always in day three on the river where I just take this huge exhale and I realize, all right, it just happened. Like my nervous system has retuned itself to something else other than this always connected life on my device. And I feel peaceful and I feel calm. And I feel like me again. I feel like that version of us, like building forts as a kid, you know, whatever that was. That it wasn't a dopamine loop, that's for sure. It was this just like deep connection and satisfaction with something.